Thank you so much for joining us, ladies. We have with us today Dr. Sigrid Elston. Now, just a little bit about Dr. Elston. She earned her doctorate in counseling psychology from the University of Georgia and completed her postdoctoral training at the Emory University School of Medicine. She was in private practice here in Georgia for over 10 years, and now she is in private practice in the state of Indiana. Dr. Sigrid, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. What I wanted to do today is just to talk about with the coronavirus pandemic that we're dealing with. A lot of ladies, a lot of children and men included, a lot of people are dealing with just the stress, the overall stress that this brings. And so I wanted us to talk a little bit about that and how we can kind of deal with, we're living in crazy times. And, what are just some of the best ways for us to kind of stay normal and stay structured?
I'm glad to answer that. That is a question that has come up quite a bit as I've seen an uptick in calls from new clients for therapy, as well as old clients with whom I've either terminated or we're not as consistently meeting, particularly those with previous histories of anxiety and depression. And so clearly this situation does take the anxiety, fear, and depression to a different level because of the lack of predictability. And so one of the main things that I think we are managing now is how much we are impacted by it. Because if you are watching the news, as soon as you open your laptop or go into Facebook, immediately you're seeing if it's jokes or statistics or deaths or a call or text from a friend or family member saying that someone else has tested positive or is in the hospital. It does naturally raise our own fears about ourselves, our loved ones, our loved ones who are of a more senior age as well. And so with that being said, needing to put some parameters on how much we are exposing ourselves to the media in different ways. So if it is just stepping away from the phone, if it's limiting the amount of time that you are watching the news, or even just interacting with others outside of your home so that you can be more present with your family and participate in some activities that are more calming and relaxing or ritualistic that you may do. And so the main concern is that lack of control. And you don't have to be a control freak to need control. And so I think that's the part, particularly as women and women of color who have historically carried a significant weight in raising our families with our counterparts or without our counterparts and with our families. That weight has historically rested with us. And so it exacerbates the normal stressors that we experience on the day-to-day.
Right. Now, you mentioned kind of stepping away from the social media, from the television and hearing the news. What would be your recommendation as a good amount of time to be on it? I mean, it's a part of our lives now to be on social media and talking, and especially now that we have to socially distance ourselves from each other. What would you recommend as a healthy amount of time to be on the internet or to socialize with friends via social media?
You raise an excellent question because it is very much a tricky balance. And I would say that because when we're social distancing, the only way that we can connect to others is socially through the media, through our phones and various resources that way. And so balancing between saying no more, that's enough, and making sure that you reach out. I think we have to be very intentional in our outreach. So if it is checking in on loved ones, make sure that you're on the phone or on FaceTime to do that specifically and then step away, because it's natural to say, okay, let me just go to the CDC and see what the stats are looking like now for the country or for the world or for my state, my county, my city. Let me just go to Facebook and just, see what's going on there. Hope I didn't miss anything after we hang up from a phone call. Very natural to do. And so as far as a limit on the time, I would say that you either need to make a decision to limit the number of times that you access the media, if it's the news, if it's Facebook, or other means of receiving information or updates, to either once or twice per day. Otherwise, no more than 15 minutes, at one time, because it could be a news program. Of course, that's going to take up the majority of the news program, different things related to the stats and precautions to take, and how the numbers are growing. And are the numbers really growing, or just more tests are being done?
Right.
So those positive numbers of tests definitely can create more panic. And so I think will be a very natural reaction. But even in general situations, when I have clients who are managing anxiety on the day-to-day, we talk about worry time, anxiety time. So setting a timer, setting a limit, setting some type of clock or a reminder to say, okay, this is your time and you need to cut it off. And I know a lot of people can say, well, that's easier, to say than actually do. But that also means you need to have a counter activity to change and shift gears to right after that anxiety or worry time is over. And something that is relaxing, an old TV show, music, yoga, meditating, something that is non-connected to the current state of, the matter and stressors that are overloading us at this time, in order to kind of check out, but in a healthy way.
Okay, perfect. I know there's a lot of DJs on now that are doing, the music and just trying to get people to connect in a way that's not focusing on, the crisis at hand, but to kind of give them ways to relax. So I do have another question for you. How harmful is it mentally for us, or harmful for us emotionally, when we totally get off our schedule? Many of us live very structured lives. You wake up in the morning and, you're getting your kids ready to send them off to school, and you're going off to work. And then all of a sudden, those schedules are no longer there. And I know some jokes that I've read lately is like, people don't even know what day it is. So because they've gotten off of that structured schedule that they've had. What should we do in terms of that? Does that lead to some type of harm to our mental and emotional state by getting off schedule? Or no, talk to me about that a little.
Yes, I definitely agree with you. When we look at feelings of fear, anxiety, hopelessness, helplessness, they all typically have to do with some lack of control over a situation. And so one of the major pieces for us is having a routine, a schedule. And I'm not saying that it's more important whether you have children or not. A schedule, some type of idea of what to expect, so that you have a certain level of normalcy. So that is one thing that you can continue to do. It may look a bit different. So it may take all family members kind of having a meeting saying, hey, okay, this is my new working from home schedule, and this is your e-learning time, or letting other family members know, if you're living by yourself or with a roommate, hey, I'm going to need it to be a little bit more quiet here, to guard certain times that you can focus on, if it's your work or if it's your meditation, prayer, or exercise that you do daily or a few times a week. Guarding certain responsibilities that you have made for yourself, those need to be routinely done. If it's meal times, that might shift as far as when they take place. It might not be eating breakfast at 6:30 a.m. It might be a little bit later. Being a little flexible with when lunch happens, but still having some routine, so everyone kind of knows what to expect. Because right now, there's so much uncertainty. It's hard to plan. And so when you mention that piece of that lack of control and certainty and schedule and routine, that's what anxiety and fear is typically all about. We're either thinking about things that happened in the past that we wish were different, or wish that we could change, or wish we should have handled differently, or we're thinking about what's coming up. And right now, we can become very consumed with what's coming up, but we don't know what that is.
Right.
And so it is very, very consuming and can completely take over. And so with that, we need to be mindful of how much we talk about it, how much we discuss it with and in front of our children, not to have blinders on. But again, going back to that piece of having limits on how much you consume yourselves with that, so as not to take away from routines.
Okay, thank you. What tips, any 3 tips, 5, whatever, what tips would you have for us just to help us get through these trying times that we're in now and just to come out better? You told us, of course, about, monitoring how much time we're spending on social media and watching the news. You talked about, creating those boundaries, and any other tips that you would give to us.
I would add to that spirituality. I know there may be some individuals who don't consider themselves to be spiritual beings, but for those who do believe in a higher power, recognizing that there is something greater than this and the right here and right now. I think that that has served many people very well in making it through storms, which we are in. And that would definitely be my top thing. So if that looks like meditation and being able to connect with what's great here, if it's reading the Bible, if it's yoga, if it's reading the Quran, if it's your prayer rituals that you may have according to your own religion, or whatever your spiritual kind of connection or outlet is, being able to implement that consistently, and maybe more than normal, whatever your ritual may be, it might have to be increased. So that definitely would be one. You mentioned DJs. I love music, and most people who know me know I love music, love to dance. I think that that has been something that has been great for me and my family to better expose our children to music that was triggered great memories from childhood, our college years. I do think that that has been fun because it's also exercise, and so I will bridge that to the exercise piece. So we can get so used to, okay, well, I'm usually at the gym, and from this time to that time, well, it might not be so feasible with the new schedule and not being able to leave, your home or go to certain places like that. So what can we do either as an individual or as a family, if it's working out at home, if it's exercising by dance? Those are different ways that I think that we are able to release. And I think people miss the natural kind of serotonin release from exercising, which serves as a mood stabilizer. And so when looking at ways to be able to decrease anxiety and depressive-like symptoms, exercising can definitely serve well to stabilize one's mood. So those would be 2 top ones that I would say, but definitely being more creative in interacting with family members. One thing that I think is a little bit more futuristic, but I encourage a lot of clients when they are in a place of transition to write notes, write some letters, not so concerned about how they'll be perceived or how grammatically correct they are, but expressing your thoughts, your immediate thoughts, without proofreading it and editing it. What's coming to mind when you think about your daughter or your son or your mother or your late father, and writing out what your fears are, what your hopes are, what you pray or hope the other side will look for. And so that helps us to think more positively, open up your blinds, let more light come through, washing clothes, cleaning up, busying yourself in certain ways. You're not avoiding it, but you are getting things accomplished. I've seen many people talking about how this is the perfect time to clean their homes or kind of declutter in certain ways. And so that is a productive way that you might not feel is helping you to fight the virus, but at least you do feel that you are getting something accomplished, and you're not concerned about meals, you're feeling more in control. And maybe hopefully cleaning your house might make your environment more safe and healthy in the meantime. Additionally, eating healthier meals and recognizing that our increased zinc in our system via fruits and vegetables helps our bodies to fight. You know, when we're in fear mode, we go into fight or flight. And so right now, how does the fight look? Are we fighting the virus? Are we fighting within our homes? You mentioned concerns about increased domestic violence, if it's child abuse or intimate partner violence. We can become stressed by nature of not having outlets and financial demands. And so we may fight with each other, not healthy at all. We can't really flee, we can't really fly anywhere right now to escape in a situation. So how can you be creative and think of ways to escape within your home or within the parameters of your yard or your bedroom in a healthy way to disconnect from everybody, and recognizing how much time you need to do that. Does that look like 15 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour to disconnect from everything and everybody? And it's a healthy escape for your mind, and really recognizing the interconnectedness between our bodies and our minds and our emotions.
Making sure you get some me time in there. Another question for you, Dr. Elston, is those who have addictions, you know, stress and uncertainty, and you know, it brings on a desire for those who may be drinking, self-medicating, or doing drugs to want to numb it even more, the pains that they're feeling now, the scariness that they're going through. What would you say to those people with those addictive issues?
I'm so glad that you brought up that point, because I think that was in the list of some of the resources that I want to make sure we provided at the end or available at the end of our conversation today. And that is huge, because just as we mentioned it earlier, depression and anxiety are very much on a rise for those who have not had any challenges before, and for those who have. And so the substance abuse piece, I don't think you mentioned any type of eating disorders. That's another piece as well. And so there are indeed available through NAMI, the National Alliance of Mental Illness, different websites to connect with via, you know, online support groups for Alcoholics Anonymous, Cocaine Anonymous, Al-Anon, Eaters Anonymous. There are a lot of different resources available to them, because it is very likely that they can go back quite quickly to previous ways of coping that might not have been as helpful, but may seem more readily available, particularly when one may feel as if they thrive for more tangible, you know, kind of, I would say, tangible contact or communal social contact, i.e. attending an AA meeting, getting a token in hand, can feel very different from talking over the phone or online. And so the biggest thing here is reaching out to those support groups and online support groups. And it may even involve developing your own support group via Zoom or Skype or GoToMeeting, another type of platform of individuals with whom you trust, and you have a kind of common theme or connector in your support system, so that you can build, reach out, kind of set a schedule or a timeline that might have to be a little bit flexible, because everyone's still adjusting and not knowing how long this is going to be. But that is indeed a population that we need to make sure that we're checking in on. And if we know someone who is battled with those challenges, making sure the resources are there. And we're not assuming that they're going to relapse, but we want to make sure that should they feel concerned about relapsing, or the fears really overtake their day-to-day, that they have resources available to them. Because what we're in is that we're getting triggered in the area of hopelessness and helplessness. And so it can look very different based on who you are by age and possibly by gender, how we cope when we feel afraid. And so do we become more aggressive or powerful, or do we become more wounded and retreat? And that is when more harm can happen to us mentally and emotionally. At the same time, becoming too powerful and aggressive and outwardly, to others can be very dangerous as well.
Thank you so much for, being with us today, joining us in on this conversation. I think it's very important for us to have these type of conversations, especially, when we're dealing with such high stress times, and being women of color. I think sometimes we're kind of marginalized in these conversations. And we've always been looked at as being such strong people, and we can handle it all. But sometimes we can't, and that's not something that we should even try to do, is handle everything alone. So I definitely appreciate you giving us your time today to stop by and just give us these tips. How can we reach out to you if someone has a desire to speak further individually with you? Maybe give us some contact information that we can use for that.
Surely. Well, the name of my practice is Diverse Counseling and Psychological Associates, and you can find me via Psychology Today. My full name again is Dr. Sigrid Y. Elston. My number, I have an Atlanta number, that's 404-313-5289. And my local in Indiana, the cell number and office number is area code 317-835-9204. My email address is diversecounseling@comcast.net. And feel free to reach out to me, or if you need some referrals for resources there in a different area in which you may be located, we can certainly work together to find you the help that you may need for yourself or a loved one.
Thank you so much, Dr. Elston. We really appreciate you. Thank you.